Before tonight's story begins, if you have ever experienced something strange, paranormal, or completely unexplainable, send your story to the email in the description. Your story might be featured in a future episode. This happened near a forgotten town called Black Hollow, deep in the mountains of Montana. Most people avoided the forest surrounding the town, not because of wild animals, not because people got lost, but because of a legend about a creature known only as the Night Walker. For over a century, locals claimed the creature lived beneath the mountains inside a sealed cave. According to old stories, dozens of people had disappeared after entering that cave. No bodies, no evidence, just gone. Most people believed it was a myth. Ethan Carter definitely did. One cold October evening, Ethan and his best friend Mason were hiking through the forest with flashlights and backpacks. "You seriously believe there's treasure in this cave?" Mason asked. Ethan laughed. "Karma, not treasure. Gold. That's even worse. I'm serious. Old mining records mention a hidden stash somewhere in these mountains. And the Night Walker, just a story parents used to scare kids." The deeper they walked into the forest, the quieter everything became. No birds, no insects, nothing. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. After another 20 minutes, Mason suddenly stopped. There, between towering pine trees stood a massive rock face, and in the center of it, a cave entrance, half hidden by vines and moss. Karma. The moment Ethan saw it, a chill crawled down his spine. For the first time that night, he felt uneasy. The darkness inside looked unnatural, as if the cave itself was alive. Mason aimed his flashlight toward the entrance. "Tell me that's not creepy." Ethan forced a smile. "It's just a cave." But even he didn't sound convinced. The two friends stepped closer, and then they saw something strange. A massive iron door had been built inside the cave. Ancient symbols covered its surface, and thin red ropes wrapped around it dozens of times, almost as if someone had desperately tried to keep something trapped inside. Mason swallowed hard. "Maybe we should leave." Ethan stared at the door. Then he noticed something. A faint orange glow, coming through a crack in the metal, as if fire was burning on the other side. Slowly, he reached for the door, and that's when they heard it. A whisper from somewhere deep behind the metal. A whisper that sounded almost human. "Let me out." Ethan and Mason froze. The whisper had come from the other side of the iron door. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Then the voice came again, this time louder. "Please, help me." Mason stepped back. "Did you hear that?" Ethan nodded slowly. His heart was pounding now, but curiosity was stronger than fear. He examined the red ropes tied across the door. Each one was covered in strange symbols, almost like ancient warnings. "Someone locked this place for a reason," Mason said. "Or someone wanted to keep people away from the gold." Without another word, Ethan grabbed one of the ropes and pulled. It snapped. Karma. Nothing happened. So he pulled another, then another. Soon dozens of ropes lay scattered across the cave floor. The moment the last rope fell, a deep metallic sound echoed through the mountain. Clang! The iron door slowly opened by itself. A blast of freezing air rushed out. The firelight inside flickered wildly. The two friends exchanged nervous glances, then stepped inside. The chamber beyond was enormous. Karma. Ancient stone pillars surrounded a giant circular room. In the center stood a black stone coffin, and around it burned dozens of candles. None of them looked recently lit, yet every flame burned perfectly, as if they had never gone out. "What is this place?" Mason whispered. Neither of them noticed the symbols carved across the floor, symbols that formed a giant prison seal around the coffin. Ethan approached first. Mason reluctantly followed. The closer they got, the colder the room became. Soon their breath was visible. Then Ethan placed both hands on the coffin lid. "Mason, help me. I really don't think this is a good idea. Just help." Together they pushed. The stone lid slid aside with a grinding noise, and both men immediately stepped back. Inside lay a woman. She looked no older than 20-5. Karma. Pale skin, long black hair, perfectly still, yet she looked alive, not dead, sleeping. Suddenly her eyes opened, bright silver eyes, not human eyes. Mason screamed. The woman slowly sat up, then smiled. A calm, beautiful, terrifying smile. "You finally freed me," she said softly. Before either man could react, every candle in the room went out. At once, darkness swallowed the chamber, and from somewhere deep beneath the mountain, something enormous began to laugh. A laugh so unnatural that both men's blood ran cold. The woman looked toward the darkness and whispered, "He's awake." The laughter echoed through the mountain, deep, inhuman dark karma, ancient. Ethan's flashlight shook in his hand as he turned toward the darkness. What was that? The woman climbed out of the coffin. For a moment, she simply stood there. Then she looked directly at Ethan and Mason. "You shouldn't be here." Mason grabbed Ethan's arm. "We need to leave, right now." For the first time all night, Ethan agreed. The two friends turned and sprinted toward the cave entrance. Behind them, the woman didn't follow. She simply watched, as if she already knew what was about to happen. The two men burst out of the cave and ran through the forest. Branches whipped against their faces. Their lungs burned. Neither of them spoke until they reached Ethan's truck. They jumped inside and slammed the doors shut. "What the hell was that?" Mason shouted. "I don't know." The truck roared to life. Within minutes they were racing back toward Black Hollow. Neither man noticed a tall shadow standing among the trees, watching them leave. The next morning, the entire town woke up to terrifying news. A hunter had disappeared during the night. His truck was found abandoned near the forest. The doors were open. His rifle was still inside, but the hunter himself was gone. By evening, another person vanished. Then another. Panic spread through Black Hollow. People locked their doors. Businesses closed early. No one wanted to be outside after sunset. 3 days later, Sheriff Daniel Brooks organized a search team. Ethan and Mason stood silently among the crowd. Neither had told anyone about the cave. Neither wanted to, because deep down, they knew they had caused this. That night, the search team entered the forest. Only 4 of the 8 men returned. The survivors were pale with fear. One of them couldn't stop shaking. When the sheriff asked what happened, the man whispered only 4 words. It wasn't human. Then he collapsed. The next morning, Ethan finally confessed everything. The cave, the coffin, the woman, the broken seals, everything. The sheriff's face turned white, because there was something Ethan didn't know. Something hidden in Black Hollow's oldest records. Over 100 years ago, a creature called the Night Walker had nearly wiped out the entire town. And according to those records, it had been imprisoned beneath the mountain until someone foolish enough set it free. Sheriff Brooks took Ethan and Mason to the town archives. Inside an old wooden cabinet, he pulled out a dusty journal written in 1894. The pages were yellow and fragile. According to the journal, Black Hollow had once been a thriving mining town. Then people started disappearing. At first it was travelers. Karma, then hunters, then entire families. Every victim was found completely drained of blood. Those who survived spoke about the same thing. A tall creature with glowing eyes that could change its appearance. It could look like a lost child, an injured traveler, or even someone you loved. That creature became known as the Night Walker. The journal also revealed another terrifying truth. The woman inside the coffin was not a victim. She was the jailer. Her purpose was to keep the Night Walker in prison forever. When Ethan and Mason opened the coffin, they broke the prison seal and released the monster. As the sheriff finished reading, the lights inside the archive suddenly flickered. Once, twice, then went out completely. The room fell silent. A cold breeze moved through the building, even though all the windows were closed. Then a voice came from behind them. "Looking for me." All 3 men spun around, but nobody was there. The lights came back on. The room was empty. Karma. Yet something felt wrong. Very wrong. Sheriff Brooks slowly looked toward the wall. Written across the wooden boards were fresh scratch marks. 3 words. "I am hungry." That night the town entered full lockdown. Nobody was allowed outside after sunset. Every house locked its doors. Every window was covered. But fear had already taken over Black Hollow. Around midnight, Ethan received a phone call. It was Mason. His voice was shaking. "Ethan, someone is outside my house." Ethan sat upright. "What do you mean?" "There's a woman standing in my yard." "The woman from the cave?" "I don't know." Ethan grabbed his keys. "I'm coming." "No, Mason's breathing became faster. That's the problem. What? The woman outside isn't moving. A long silence followed. Then Mason whispered something that made Ethan's blood freeze. Because she's standing outside, and she's talking to me. From inside my bedroom, Ethan rushed to Mason's house as fast as he could. The streets of Black Hollow were completely empty. No lights, no people, only darkness. When Ethan arrived, Mason's front door was wide open. The house was silent, too silent. Mason, no answer. Ethan stepped inside. The living room was empty. The kitchen was empty. Then he heard a weak voice coming from upstairs. Ethan, help. It was Mason. Ethan ran toward the bedroom. The door was slightly open. He pushed it slowly and froze. Mason was standing in the middle of the room, not moving, not blinking, just staring at the wall. Mason, slowly. Mason turned around. His face was pale. His eyes were completely black. Then he smiled. A smile that wasn't his. You should have stayed away from the cave. The voice wasn't Mason's. It belonged to something else. Suddenly the bedroom window exploded inward. Glass flew everywhere. A freezing wind filled the room, and standing outside the broken window was the woman from the coffin. Her silver eyes glowed in the darkness. The Night Walker has entered the town, she said. If we don't stop him tonight, everyone will die. The creature inside Mason laughed. Then its body twisted unnaturally. Bones cracked, skin stretched, and within seconds Mason collapsed to the floor. A massive shadow rose from his body, nearly 8 feet tall, glowing red eyes, long claws, rows of sharp teeth. The Night Walker, finally revealing its true form. The monster lunged forward. The woman raised her hand. Ancient symbols appeared around the room. The creature slammed into an invisible barrier. Its scream shook the entire house. Outside, people woke up as lights flickered across the town. The final battle had begun. For several minutes the creature fought against the glowing symbols. Then the woman turned toward Ethan. There is only one way. What do I do? Return him to the prison. The woman handed Ethan a small stone covered in ancient markings. Place this inside the coffin. Without hesitation, Ethan grabbed it. The woman trapped the creature long enough for Ethan and Sheriff Brooks to reach the cave. The Night Walker followed them through the forest, destroying everything in its path. Tree snapped. The ground shook. Its screams echoed through the mountains. Finally, they reached the cave. Ethan sprinted inside. The coffin stood exactly where it had before. Behind him, the Night Walker entered the chamber. Closer, closer, closer. At the last second, Ethan dropped the stone into the coffin. The symbols across the floor erupted with blinding light. The creature screamed. The entire mountain trembled. Then the Night Walker was pulled backward, dragged toward the coffin by an invisible force. For a moment, its glowing eyes locked onto Ethan, filled with pure hatred. Then it vanished. The coffin slammed shut. Silence returned. The nightmare was over. Or so everyone believed. A week later, life slowly returned to normal. People reopened their businesses. Children returned to school. The disappearances stopped. Black Hollow was safe again. But one night Ethan received an anonymous package. Inside was an old photograph taken in 1894. A photograph showing the villagers who had originally imprisoned the Night Walker. Ethan stared at the image. His blood turned cold. Because standing among the villagers, looking exactly the same, without aging a single day, was the woman from the coffin. And written on the back of the photograph were 5 chilling words. The prison won't hold forever. If you have ever experienced something strange, paranormal, or completely unexplained, send your story to the email in the description. Your story may be featured in a future video. Good night, and stay out of the woods.